Winter 1940. Europe is on fire, but above the chaos, the lights of a hotel never flicker. The Gstaad Palace looks like a fairy tale, yet beneath its towers, Switzerland's gold, and possibly a darker cargo, lay sealed behind concrete. As spies and power brokers slipped through its marble halls, most guests never knew they were sleeping on the world's safest vault. The price for this secrecy would push the palace to the edge of ruin, and only a desperate gamble would decide its fate. The story begins with a single, reckless bet. So how did an empty mountain hotel become Europe's most strategic fortress? December 8, 1913. In the heart of the Bernese Alps, a palace rises from a snowy hillside, a hotel built not just for shelter, but for spectacle. The Royal Hotel, Winter and Gstaad Palace, opens its doors with 250 beds, 165 rooms, and the kind of modern luxuries that seem almost arrogant for a remote mountain village. Central heating, electric lights, telegraph lines, even private baths in 70 suites. The vision belongs to Albert Stoidler and Hans Punter, men who believe that the world's elite will soon crave the purity of alpine air and the thrill of winter sport. Investors from Lausanne and beyond pour money into the project, convinced that Gstaad will become the next great playground for Europe's aristocracy. But optimism has a short shelf life. Within months, the war breaks out. By the summer of 1914, the borders snap shut. The continent is cut in half by trenches, and the grand halls of the palace echo with emptiness. Instead of champagne and laughter, the only sound is the wind carving through deserted corridors. The staff light the coal boilers for almost no one. Most rooms remain untouched, beds made for guests who never arrive. The accounts bleed red ink as the cost of keeping the hotel warm outpaces the trickle of income from the few travelers who manage to reach the valley. Local papers call it a white elephant in the snow, a monument to ambition stranded in a world that no longer has use for such extravagance. Stoidler and Punter try desperate measures. In 1915, they stage a tennis tournament, hoping to lure visitors with sport. The gamble barely registers. The war drags on, and the palace survives only by scraping together what little it can from rationed supplies and the occasional Swiss guest. Each winter, the risk of bankruptcy looms larger. There are no bailouts, no government subsidies, just the slow grind of bills unpaid and dreams deferred. By 1918, the hotel stands as a silent witness to folly, a castle built for a vanished world, its grandeur now a liability. The promise of easy glamour has faded. What remains is a question: can a palace survive when the world outside has lost its appetite for beauty? The answer, for now, is survival at any cost. The palace endures, battered but intact, its future hanging by a thread. The war will end, but the memory of those empty years will haunt every ledger and every decision that follows. In Gstaad, luxury is no longer a guarantee. It is a risk, one that will demand even greater gambles in the decades to come. By 1939, Europe was once again on edge. The Gstaad Palace, perched above the valley, no longer just looked like a fortress. It became a fortress. That year, the Union Bank of Switzerland commissioned a strong room beneath the terrace. 450 square meters of reinforced concrete, armored doors, and walls thick enough to withstand fire, sabotage, or artillery. Construction memos from the bank's board called for a vault that could not be set ablaze, a place where elementary data and valuables, including gold, could survive even if the border fell. The orders were clear. Move the most precious assets quietly from vulnerable sites in Stans and Lungern to the safety of neutral snow. While the continent erupted in chaos, convoys rumbled up the mountain. Gold bars, securities, and bank records were ferried through alpine passes, logged in transfer sheets that now read like the script of a lost thriller. There are no detailed manifests, no serial numbers that tie a single bar to this hotel. The provenance of what slept in the vault remains a gap, one that keeps historians and conspiracy theorists busy. What is certain, Swiss National Bank gold and the private fortunes of the country's elite were hidden in the palace's concrete bowels. The armored door is still there, a silent witness to the era's paranoia. The hotel itself became a shadow of its former self. Wartime guest lists shrank to a trickle. Most of the men were at the front, and the border was sealed. Only a handful of refugees and the rare banking official passed through the lobby. Mrs. Sylvia Schurz managed the property almost alone. Her husband called away to border duty. She planted a vegetable garden on the grounds, raised chickens for eggs, and rationed every candle and sack of flour. The light stayed on always, but the grand halls felt hollow, the laughter replaced by the quiet hum of survival. The palace was no longer a stage for the world's elite. It was a bunker, neutral in name and in practice. Rumors drifted down the valley, whispers of secret meetings, of suitcases handcuffed to wrists, of men who spoke in code. But the guest registers from those years are thin, the names mostly lost to time. No declassified files place spies or diplomats here, just the lingering sense that, while Europe burned, something valuable was being guarded above the flames. The Gstaad Palace, once a white elephant, now stood as Switzerland's insurance policy, a fortress of wealth and a target for anyone who understood what was hidden beneath the snow. February 1947. The war is over, but the Gstaad Palace stands on the edge of another kind of disaster. The hotel's majority shareholder, Joseph Diemond, has had enough of the struggle. He sells his 45% stake to Kurt von Jahn, a German industrialist with no interest in alpine glamour, only in assets waiting to be gutted. Von Jahn's plan is as blunt as the winter wind. Strip out the luxury, convert the palace into a home for sick and retired factory workers, and erase everything that made the hotel a sanctuary for the privileged. The village whispers, then panics. The flagship of Gstaad is about to become a ward for the weary. Ernst Schertz, the hotel's manager since before the war, learns of the deal. He has just one day to find a way out. The clock starts. He turns to Dr. Fritz Kaufmann, the village doctor, a man whose reputation for discretion is rivaled only by his connections. Together, they begin a frantic search for capital. There is no time for banks or formalities, just phone calls, late-night meetings, and desperate promises. Lausanne investors, old friends, even silent partners are asked for help. Each hour, the risk grows. If they fail, the palace becomes a monument to lost ambitions, its chandeliers swapped for hospital lamps. The share transfer contract is real, its terms unforgiving. Von Jahn will not wait. The money must be raised by dawn, or the deal stands. Schurz offers everything he has, his reputation, future earnings, even his own salary as collateral. In the small hours, the final pledges arrive. The sum is enough. By morning, the shares are back in Swiss hands. The palace is saved from the fate of so many grand hotels that fell to speculators and syndicates in the post-war years. But the cost is more than financial. Schurz now owes favors to half the canton. The hotel's independence is bought with a web of obligations that will take years to unwind. Over the next 7 years, he slowly repays each investor, consolidating control until, by 1954, the palace is fully in the hands of the Schurz family. The dynasty is born, not from inherited wealth, but from a 24-hour scramble against extinction. Where others saw a relic, Schurz saw a fortress worth defending. The era of family rule begins, and with it, a new code. The secrets of the palace will be guarded as closely as its gold. No outsiders, no corporate raiders, and no more near-death rescues. Only the mountain, the family, and the silence that now defines the palace's power. Gringo opened its doors in 1971, buried beneath the palace like a secret waiting to be discovered. The nightclub was carved out of the old wartime bunker, its walls thick enough to muffle any sound, its entrance hidden behind a velvet rope and a knowing glance. Inside, the atmosphere was electric. Colored lights bounced off mirrored ceilings, and the air shimmered with the scent of expensive perfume and anticipation. But Gringo was never just a dance floor. It was a sanctuary for those who measured their privacy in millions, not minutes. Elizabeth Taylor arrived in the dead of winter, fleeing the cameras that trailed her across continents. The staff escorted her through a side entrance, past the kitchen and down a service corridor, her presence noted only by a handful of trusted employees. For days, she lived in the shadow of the chandeliered lobby, slipping into Gringo after midnight, her laughter swallowed by the pulsing music. Not a single photograph appeared in the press. The code was simple. What happened at the palace stayed at the palace. The Shah of Iran brought his own kind of spectacle. In the early mornings, he carved lines through fresh powder on the slopes, flanked by bodyguards in tailored suits. By night, he held court in Gringo's private alcoves, surrounded by diplomats and exiled royals. His security team swept the club before he entered, yet the staff never spoke a word to outsiders. Discretion was currency, and in Gstaad, the exchange rate was always high. The 1975 premiere of The Return of the Pink Panther brought a different energy. Hollywood producers, European aristocrats, and local legends mingled over champagne, their conversations lost in the thrum of music and the hush of mutual understanding. The party spilled out into the corridors, but secrets never leaked. The staff had mastered the art of silence. No guest list was ever confirmed, no scandal ever surfaced. This was not Studio 54, where notoriety was the price of entry. At Gringo, anonymity was the ultimate luxury. Even as the world outside chased headlines and flashbulbs, the palace built its reputation on what it refused to reveal. The Schurz family enforced the code of omerta with the quiet authority of old money. No one was above the rules, not even Michael Jackson, who decades later would offer to buy the hotel outright and be politely turned down. The message was clear. The palace belonged to those who understood that real power is exercised in whispers, not shouts. In the glow of Gringo's neon, the myth of the palace grew. Here, luxury was measured not by what you could show, but by what you could hide. For the chosen few, the promise was ironclad. Your secrets were safe, locked away as tightly as the gold that once slept in the vault below. In the age of leveraged buyouts and brand portfolios, the Gstaad Palace stands as a stubborn outlier. While icons like the Plaza and the Ritz have traded hands between corporations, sovereign wealth funds, and distant shareholders, the palace remains under the watchful eye of the Schurz family. Every year, offers arrive, some discreet, some brazen. In 2000, Michael Jackson's representatives proposed a deal that would have rewritten the hotel's history. The answer was polite but final. The palace is not for sale, not at any price. Andrea Schertz, the third-generation steward, carries the weight of this decision. He knows what the market demands: scale, efficiency, global reach. Instead, he has chosen a different path, one that trades mass appeal for absolute discretion. The palace is now less a hotel than a fortress, catering to a clientele so rarefied they barely register on any public list. The guest book is a roll call of the 0.001%, each name protected by a code of silence older than most corporations. This independence comes at a cost. Without the safety net of a multinational parent, every crisis is personal. Renovations are funded not by distant investors, but by the family's own reserves. The staff are loyal not to a brand, but to a name etched in the stone above the entrance. In an era where luxury means access for all, the palace has doubled down on exclusivity. It is a business model built on scarcity, secrecy, and the unspoken promise that what happens behind its walls will never see the light of day. The result is a place that feels less like a hotel and more like a private trust, a citadel where the world's most powerful can disappear in plain sight. Beneath the grand dining rooms and chandeliers, a heavy steel door stands at the end of a short corridor, unchanged since the day it was installed in 1940. Behind it, the old vault has been reborn as La Fromagerie, a fondue restaurant where laughter now echoes off thick concrete walls, once built to withstand fire and invasion. Guests sip white wine and dip bread into molten cheese, surrounded by the same reinforced shell that once guarded the Swiss National Bank's gold reserves at the height of Europe's collapse. The transformation is seamless on the surface: polished tables, soft lighting, the faint scent of truffle oil. But the past lingers. The armored door is never quite out of sight, a silent reminder that this was never just a cellar. It was a sanctuary for something precious, and possibly something tainted. No plaque explains what was stored here, or where it came from. The ledgers are missing, the serial numbers untraceable. The Bergier Commission's reports, thick with redacted pages, admit as much. There is no proof that looted Axis gold passed through these walls, yet there is no proof it did not. The provenance of the fortune that slept here remains a gap in the record, a shadow that refuses to lift. Today, diners toast to the good life inside a strong room built for catastrophe. The line between sanctuary and secrecy, between celebration and silence, is razor thin. In Gstaad, history is never quite buried. It is served quietly on a silver tray. In an era when luxury is often stripped for profit, Gstaad Palace stands as a fortress of secrets and discretion. Its independence is rare. Just 5% of grand hotels remain family-owned in Europe today. As ultra-wealthy guests seek new refuges, the line between sanctuary and stronghold blurs. In these halls, history is not just preserved, it is protected. What would you trade to keep your world untouched?